In this section, we will see how to monitor a Microsoft Fabric data warehouse. In this section, we will monitor capacity unit usage using the Microsoft Fabric Capacity Metrics app. We will also take a look at how to monitor current activity in the data warehouse using dynamic management views or DMVs. And lastly, we will look at monitoring query trends with Query Insight views. By using the Fabric Capacity Metrics app, you can observe capacity utilization trends to determine what processes are consuming CUs or capacity units in your Fabric environment and whether any throttling has occurred, which indicates that your processes require more capacity than is available within the constraints of your purchased capacity license. With this information, you can optimize your capacity license for your needs. The app is available for premium licenses. It can help you monitor and manage workload costs, giving you the ability to filter by activity and track capacity units or CUs, looking at primarily reads and writes. You can download this app from the Fabric website. Use the Fabric Capacity Metrics app to analyze the warehouse, the SQL Analytics endpoint, and OneLake. The warehouse query will show you compute charges for all user-generated and system-generated T-SQL statements within the warehouse. By monitoring warehouse queries, you can identify performance bottlenecks and optimize query execution. This ensures that your data warehouse operates efficiently, providing quick and reliable access to data. The SQL Analytics endpoint query will display compute charges for all user-generated and system-generated T-SQL statements within the SQL Analytics endpoint query. With OneLake Compute, you can view compute charges for all reads and writes for data stored in OneLake. Monitoring with the Fabric Capacity Metrics app is essential for optimizing performance, managing resources, controlling costs, planning capacity, troubleshooting issues, ensuring security, and enhancing the user experience. This graph in Microsoft Fabric Capacity Metrics app shows utilization of resources compared to capacity purchased. 100% of the utilization represents the full throughput for a capacity SKU, and it's shared by all the Fabric experiences. This is represented by the yellow dotted line. Selecting a specific point in time in the graph enables the Explore button, which opens a detailed drill-through page, in general similar to Power BI. Operations are classified as either interactive or background and denoted by color. Most operations in the warehouse category are reported as background to take advantage of the 24-hour smoothing of activity to allow the most flexible usage patterns. Classifying data warehousing as background reduces the frequency of peaks of CU utilization from triggering throttling. Notice too that you can look at utilization, throttling, and overages by clicking the tabs at the top, and you have a slider that you can drag to the right or to the left to get more focused on certain dates that you'd like to examine more thoroughly. There are a few usage considerations to think about as you use the Fabric Capacity Metrics app. In cross-database reporting, usage is reported against the resource initiating a T-SQL query, joining multiple warehouses or a warehouse and a SQL Analytics endpoint. Note that the system catalog and dynamic management view queries are billable. And lastly, the duration field in the Fabric Capacity Metrics app reflects statement execution time. It is informational. It may not include a full result rendering time for the web or client apps. SQL Server users will feel comfortable with dynamic management views from SQL Server available in the Fabric warehouse. This code example demonstrates how to find long-running queries, session IDs by user, and how admins can terminate certain queries as needed. You can use Dynamic Management Views, or DMVs, to monitor connections, sessions, and to request status to see live SQL query lifecycle insights. With DMVs, you can get details like the number of active queries and identify which queries are running for an extended period and require termination. There are a few DMVs listed here. You have your sys.dm execute connections, which returns information about each connection established between the warehouse and the engine. You also have your sys.dm execute sessions, which returns information about each session authenticated between item and engine. And the sys.dm execute request, which returns information about each active request in a session. Please note that you must be a workspace admin to run the kill command. Workspace admins can execute all three dynamic management views. Members, contributors, and viewer roles can see their own results within the warehouse, but cannot see other users' results. Microsoft Fabric data warehouses include query insight features that provide historical, aggregated information about the queries that have been run, enabling you to identify frequently used or long-running queries and helping you analyze and tune query performance. Depending on the concurrent workloads, queries may take up to 15 minutes to be reflected in the Query Insights views. To enable the views to provide aggregated metrics, queries with predicates are parameterized and considered the same query if the parameterized statements are an exact match, which saves time by reusing the query. Execution plan. In our example here, you can see that we can query for queries from the previous hour using the Query Insights Execute Request history. We can also see long-running queries that have been run multiple times using the Query Insights long-running queries. And finally, we can see frequently run queries using our Query Insights Frequently Run Queries view. And not shown here, there is the Query Insights Execute Sessions history that returns information about completed sections. And now, let's take a closer look on how to monitor a data warehouse in Microsoft Fabric.
Now let's focus in on how to work with and monitor a data warehouse in Microsoft Fabric. And I already have a workspace created, as you can see right here. And what I did is I loaded in a sample data warehouse. I went out here, I clicked on Create, and under our data warehouse section, there is a sample warehouse. It does take a while to load. So I actually loaded it already, but realize you can click it here and it'll come with a bunch of sample data, which might be very helpful. But I already have it loaded and I have it right here. So you can see that it has a bunch of tables and objects already inside of it, which could be very helpful. And it's helpful in our case here since we want to try to use some of the monitoring capabilities of SQL. And what we're going to do is take a look at some very common dynamic management views to kind of start us off. So a lot of these are SQL views that you can use. And what I'm going to do is paste the first one in here. And this one, we're going to go ahead and run. This one will show us essentially all the details about the connections currently in our data warehouse. And you can see it has a number of fields here that we might find very helpful. And what you might also find helpful is there is some documentation here on it in Learn. And I'm going to suggest that if you're planning on taking the exam, that you spend some time looking in particular at these dynamic management views. They will be very helpful for the exam. And this one in particular, you can see it tells you a little bit about what it does. But you'll also note that it's going column by column and telling you a little bit about what each one does. So you can get some information from here about each of those fields. And if I go down the bottom, there's some extra information there about what you can run. So I could use this dynamic management view here to gather information about a query's own connection. And you can see that from there. And then the other thing I wanted to highlight for just a moment here is that this dynamic management view can actually be used in a lot of different scenarios. SQL Server, Azure SQL Database, Managed Instance, Azure Synapse Analytics, and more, as you can see, and of course here in the warehouse. So that's one option you may want to take a little deeper dive into. Now we also have another dynamic management view we want to highlight, and it is our execute sessions dynamic management view. And when we execute that, that is going to show us details on all authenticated sessions. You can see the session ID, the login time, and the host that they're connecting from. A lot of juicy information there that you can find very helpful. And again, there is a Microsoft Learn documentation or document here on that dynamic management view. And you can see that it can be used really in a lot of our SQL products here. And if I scroll down a little bit lower, again, you can see each of the fields and what it contains. So login time, host name, program name, client interface name, a lot of really good information to help us do some troubleshooting. But even better, at the very bottom, there are some examples. So if I'm looking to find users that are connected to the server, I can use this query here to make that happen. If I'm looking for long-running cursors or idle sessions or getting information about my own connection, they're trying to show you some of the queries that you can run, which I think are very helpful. And then we have another dynamic management view that you might be familiar with. And this is our executing requests dynamic management view. And this is going to show us all the requests that are currently being executed right now against the data warehouse. And if I go in and take a look at that execute request from MS Learn, again, we can use it all over SQL. And then down below, you can see it can capture the command, the status, the start time, session ID, the SQL handle, a lot of information that might be helpful. And a lot of this you can get off of Profiler inside of SQL also. So that's another option. But again, we do have some really good examples down at the bottom. If I want to find the query text for a batch that's currently running, or if I wanted to maybe find active requests that are currently going on, or look for locks, I have a lot of information that I can use here, some pre-made queries that I can use to make that helpful. So hopefully this section you found very helpful. A lot of dynamic management objects I can work with right now. You're probably used to using those. And then I want to run this statement right here. This statement's going to bring together a lot of the options that we saw here from executing sessions and requests. I'm going to go ahead and run that. And when I run that, you can see the two connections that are currently active and get more information there. And then I do want to highlight some of the insights that we do have. So I do want to highlight some of the insights that we currently have built into Fabric. And then we have query insights where we can request history. We can also see our session history, long-running queries, and then also query for frequently run queries. So I think you might find this helpful. And if I right-click that and get into it, you might also find that we have some additional information on each of those. Okay, so I hope you found this helpful and hope to see you in the next section.
And now it's time for our knowledge check. Question 1. You want to monitor capacity unit consumption in your Fabric data warehouse. What tools should you use? Answer: Microsoft Fabric Capacity Metrics app. Question 2. Which dynamic management and view provides details about SQL commands running in the data warehouse? Answer: sys.dm execute requests. Question 3. Which view should you use to identify commonly run commands in your data warehouse? Answer: Query Insights frequently run queries. In this section, we covered the Microsoft Fabric Capacity Metrics app to help us monitor our capacity metrics and manage workload costs. We also looked at a few warehouse operation categories and what they're used for to help us monitor our data warehouse. And we took a look at a time point graph that can give us even more detail on our Fabric usage. We also explored a few dynamic management views to help us identify current activity and even terminate sessions. Lastly, we looked at our Query Insight views that give us even more detail about the queries running in our environment. For more information on how to monitor a Microsoft Fabric data warehouse, please see the link provided here.